This video will have lots of spoilers for Avengers Infinity War. In fact, this video won't make any sense unless you've watched Avengers Infinity War, so before watching this, make sure you've seen at least these 6 movies, and then also Avengers Infinity War, and then come back and watch this video.
Tell me his name again.
Thanos.
Avengers Infinity War has only one character with anything resembling a character arc, and it's the villain, Thanos. He's not the hero, but he is basically the protagonist. But Thanos is not sympathetic.
It's genocide. That's never the answer, kids. Genocide's never the answer. Even though it seems sensible, like when Thanos lays it out.
It was his burden to bear that he had to deliver this blow.
He was very melancholy. He thought, this was my job, and, someone's got to do it.
Seriously, stop saying stuff like this. It makes me worried about you. Thanos is a character archetype we've seen before. It even has an entry on TV tropes. Utopia Justifies the Means. It's a character who does undeniably evil things because they believe the end result will be good enough to justify the evil means.
I don't murder children.
I do. If I have to. I believe in something greater than myself. A better world. A world without sin. I'm a monster. What I do is evil. I have no illusions about it, but it must be done.
Tends to be more compelling than a villain that does evil for revenge, like Whiplash from Iron Man 2, or for no clear reason, like Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy.
What are you doing?
This is especially so if the character is humanized to some extent. And Thanos is humanized, though in a kind of weird way. The theme that is pounded into the audience's collective face over and over again in Infinity War is sacrifice. One of the very first lines is Ebony Maw saying that the scales tip toward balance because of your sacrifice. Tony Stark is presented as more invested in his relationship with Pepper Potts than ever before, and his leaving to save Doctor Strange and the Time Stone means breaking his promise to her and sacrifice of that relationship's stability and probably his own life. Peter Parker also denies Tony's attempt to save him, choosing instead to sacrifice himself to help Tony save Strange. Thor risks his life in order to start a very important oven. T'Challa is shown believing that he is sacrificing the whole of Wakanda by choosing to open the force field in order to buy Shuri time so that the Mind Stone can be destroyed. Then there's the second type of sacrifice. There are 2 characters that are put in a position to sacrifice someone they love for the greater good at their victim's insistence. Gamora makes Peter Quill promise to kill her if Thanos captures her, which he tries to do, and Vision makes Wanda destroy the Mind Stone while it's still attached to his head, killing him, which she does only to have it undone. These are morally in between the self-sacrifices above and the third kind of sacrifice. The third kind is just murder, but it's murder that you'd think is for the greater good. Thanos kills Gamora even though it's clear he doesn't want to, like with the above kind, he sacrifices her for the greater good. Unlike with Quill and Wanda, however, the decision to sacrifice isn't at the insistence of the victim. It's over her objections. Sure, he is sad about it, but the victim here is Gamora, not Thanos. As Peter Quill later says, he did not have to do it. It's a microcosm of his larger mission. His goal is a world without want, and to do it, he plans not to sacrifice himself, but rather a whole lot of other people. And again, we have Gamora telling them that he doesn't know that it's actually for the greater good. She is totally right about that. One reason the Utopia Justifies the Means archetype is interesting is because they might, at least in theory, be right. Some part of our psychology is sympathetic to the idea that a few well-tailored atrocities might be better for humanity in the long run. If filmmakers want to key into that psychology, then they have 3 options, really. You can present the villain as right, turning them into an anti-hero. You can make the villain factually right, but morally still wrong, projecting the Kantian message that evil is evil irrespective of its ends.
Of course you must protect Light's new Utopia. What's one more body amongst foundations?
Or you can make the villain factually wrong, in which case it doesn't really matter if it's morally right or wrong, because either way it's just wrong. Infinity War takes the position that Thanos is morally wrong, and factually he is, at the very best, not sufficiently justified. His moral wrongness is summed up by Steve Rogers' statement that we don't trade lives. Rogers is generally presented as the moral center of the MCU, a kind of incorruptible personality that never so much as flirts with doing the wrong thing. Vision is also portrayed as pure, though in a more detached way than Rogers, and Vision reiterates the no trading lives rule. When Doctor Strange says he won't hesitate to let Stark or Parker die to save the Time Stone, Tony sarcastically says, "Good moral compass." And the message that good guys don't do this fits with the fact that only the villain is cool with sacrificing the lives of innocent third parties for the greater good, and then acting like his decision to do so is this terrible burden he has to bear.
It was his burden to bear.
They really did take everything from me.
Thanos at one point says that the hardest choices require the strongest will, but he's not talking about making the hard choice to volunteer at his local soup kitchen twice a week. He's talking about reducing people to numbers, and then reducing the numbers. As for his factual wrongness, let's just take a look at his evidence. There are two things that justify Thanos' belief that murdering trillions of sentient beings is necessary for the greater good: the destruction of his homeworld and the mass murder he oversaw on Gamora's homeworld. First, there's his home planet, Titan. It was apparently a nice place, but something was going wrong, and Thanos suggested murdering half the population by lottery to fix it. That didn't happen, and then Titan ultimately did fall into ruin, apparently killing all of the population except Thanos himself. We don't know from this that Thanos' plan would have actually worked. We just know that whatever they tried instead did not. From the look of Titan, it doesn't really seem like people starved to death. The place is 8 degrees off its axis, whatever that means. I'm skeptical killing half the people would have actually been a better idea. Second, we have Gamora's homeworld. From the way Thanos tells it, it was riddled with poverty and starvation. Then he murdered half its population, and now it's great.
He's like, you know what's happened since then, man? Kids never been hungry and shit like that. It's Christmas every day. He didn't say that, but...
Well, if that's true, it provides at least a little evidence for his theory, but then we have Gamora explicitly saying it is not true. She says they were happy before Thanos came along, and even though Thanos gets the last word here, she surely is more authoritative, right? I mean, it's her homeworld. She actually lived there. And that's all the evidence. The only other thing is the banal statement that the universe has finite resources, but that doesn't exactly justify mass murder. It might justify promoting access to birth control. For that matter, the existence of poverty and hunger also doesn't prove that the problem is too many people. We have poverty and hunger in the real world right now, but it isn't because there are too many people and too few resources. It's because the resources are distributed very unevenly. If we suddenly killed half the people on Earth, it would not end hunger. It might even make it worse. If ending poverty motivated Thanos, he would have snapped his fingers and put more money and resources into the hands of the poor. I mean, I guess we don't know exactly what the powers of the Infinity Gauntlet are, but we have no reason to think that turning people to ash was the only option. Which gets to who Thanos really is. He's a murderer. He clearly really believes that it's for the greater good, but that's not actually his motivation. It's what he tells himself so he can believe he's not the bad guy. Everything else about him, the fact that he sits on a throne, his sadism and abusiveness toward his victims and toward Nebula in particular, it all screams of someone that is insecure and gets off on feeling powerful, and who feels powerful when he hurts people.
I have a family. They're alive because of you.
The rest of it is about making him feel okay about that. He is super invested in feeling okay about that, to the point that he's willing to kill his own daughter to prove how righteous his quest is, so that he can say it's all for the job. But he took the job because he likes it.
I did it for me. I liked it.
Him thinking his plan is good when it's obviously evil isn't really a plot hole. There are real people just like that. So stop sympathizing with Thanos. He's a good villain, but he's a villain, not an anti-hero. He's not like Killmonger, who is actually motivated by a desire for a better world. Still, Thanos is quite interesting. I mean, I couldn't possibly write something like this about Zemo. So yeah, he's interesting, but he's also 100% bad guy.